2.5 years ago, a scrappy Japanese studio you've probably never heard of dropped a survival game where you catch cute little creatures and then put them to work in factories, strap guns on their backs, and occasionally watch them get thrown into a furnace for fuel. The internet lost their mind. It broke Steam's concurrent player records. It got a lawsuit from Nintendo, and for a while it felt like the biggest game in the world. That game is Palworld. And on July 10th, 2026, after almost 2.5 years in early access, Pocket Pair finally shipped version 1.0, the full release. So the question I'm answering today is simple. Was it worth the wait? Is Palworld actually a finished, complete game now? Or is this just early access with a fresh coat of paint and a marketing push? I've spent the last couple of weeks back in the game specifically for this video, and I want to walk you through what actually changed. So let's get into it. For anyone who's been on the sidelines or living under a rock or just wisely avoiding the discourse, Palworld is an open world survival crafting game. Think Ark Survival Evolved or Rust, but the dinosaurs are instead adorable monster collectible creatures called pals. You catch them, you can battle with them, you can breed them, and you can also assign them to work in your factory line. Mine ore, chop wood, or guard your base while you go do something else. That last part is the twist that made it famous. It's not just a Pokemon clone with a battle system. It's a full base building automation survival game, where your Pokemon are also your labor force. People immediately called it Pokemon with guns, and honestly, that's a pretty fair one-line pitch. You can absolutely put a rifle in your pal's hands and go hunting together. It launched in early access in January 2024, and it hit over 2 million concurrent players on Steam within days. A genuinely absurd number for a game nobody has really kept track of beforehand. Since then, Pocket Pair has shipped 5 major content updates, with the most recent one being Home Sweet Home back in December 2025. Which focused heavily on improving base building. So what actually happened between that explosive launch and now? A lot, honestly. Pocket Pair kept iterating steadily rather than resting on the initial hype. Each major patch added new regions, new pals, new boss fights, and quality of life fixes. The developers have also been refreshingly candid about their own growing pains as a studio. Pocket Pair's publishing lead, John Buckley, has openly admitted the team is still figuring out how to responsibly manage the money that came flooding in after launch. That kind of honesty is rare from a studio that suddenly became a household name overnight. Throughout 2025, Pocket Pair signaled that 1.0 wouldn't be another content dump, so much as a polish pass. Bug fixes, balance changes, making the existing systems feel complete. But when the actual patch notes dropped, that turned out to be selling it short. This wasn't a tidy up. It was, by Pocket Pair's own admission, the biggest update in the game's history, reportedly spanning 27 pages of patch notes. Now let's talk specifics, because there's a lot here. The headline addition is the World Tree, a previously locked off, teased area that's now the game's primary endgame zone. If you've played since early access, you've probably seen this barrier in the distance and wondered what was behind it. Now you get to find out. Alongside that is an entirely new region called Sunreach, a floating sky island you could access using a new item called the Wing Pack, essentially a glider. Between the World Tree and Sunreach, Pocket Pair says the explorable map has effectively doubled in size. On the creature side, 1.0 adds 72 new pals, including new species and new fusion pals, bringing the total roster up to 287. That's a massive jump for people who were starting to run out of things to catch. There are also 2 new systems worth calling out, Awakening and Mutation, which from what I can tell add extra depth to how you evolve and specialize individual pals rather than just leveling them up. The tower bosses, which were previously kind of static, run and hit the big run out encounters, they have been reworked to be more dynamic. Wildlife sanctuaries and no hunting zone areas that were meant to add some ecological nuance to the world also got a significant overhaul. And on the technical side, dedicated server owners get in-game voice chat and proper guild roles, plus performance improvements. One interesting note for anyone running their own server, the long-teased server clustering feature, which would let you link multiple servers together, is not actually live yet. The groundwork appears to be sitting in the server binary, but there's no supported way to use it as of this update. So if you're holding out specifically for that, it's not here yet. Existing saves are compatible with 1.0, though Poképair themselves recommend starting a new save to get the full experience, which tells you something about how much has changed under the hood. Now, how does all of this actually feel to play? The core loop is still exactly what made Palworld addictive in the first place. You explore, you catch things, you build up a base, you automate resource gathering, and you gradually gear up to take on tougher bosses and dungeons. The reworked tower bosses are a genuine improvement. They feel less like damage sponges you circle strafe, and more like actual encounters with attack patterns you need to learn. The new awakening and mutation systems give you a real reason to keep engaging with pals you already have instead of just chasing the next catch, which helps address one of my biggest criticisms of the pre-1.0 game. That progression could feel like a flat grind once you've caught your favorites. The World Tree Zone in particular is clearly designed as this, so you've done everything else, now what? Answer. And it's paced well as a proper capstone rather than just more of the same wrapped in a new skin. Base building continues to be one of Palworld's strongest pillars, and it's clearly where Poképair has focused a lot of attention across updates. Remember, the last major patch before 1.0 was almost entirely about improving base building. The automation loop of assigning pals to specific jobs based on their skills, then optimizing your base layout for efficiency. Multiplayer is where the new voice chat and guild roles systems actually matter a lot. If you've played on a dedicated server with friends, you know coordination has always been a little clunky without third-party tools. Built-in voice chat and proper roles for server admins close a real gap. Now, I have to address this because it's generally still relevant and people are confused about it. Nintendo and the Pokémon Company sued Poképair in 2024 over patents related to monster catching gameplay mechanics, things like how creatures are captured and summoned in the field. Here's the current state of it. As of late July 2026, this is not resolved yet. There's a hearing scheduled at the Tokyo District Court for October 1st, and a decision is expected November 9th of this year. What's notable is how the case is narrowed. Nintendo initially wanted an injunction that could have pulled Palworld from shelves entirely, but according to sources, as Poképair updated the game through early access, changing mechanics that were specifically argued as patent infringing, like summoning captured pals from spears and using them for transportation, Nintendo amended the scope of its case in November 2025 to focus on only older versions of the game. What that means practically, legal analysts estimate that even in the best case scenario for Nintendo, the maximum possible payout is capped at roughly 5 million yen, about 30,000 American dollars. For context, Nintendo reported nearly $41 million in total litigation expenses for the fiscal year ending March 2026. So regardless of the outcome, this lawsuit has been financially lopsided against Nintendo from the start. And it has zero effect on your ability to buy or play the current version of the game. The 1.0 release you can buy today was completely unaffected by any of this. Now, no review is complete without the honest downsides, and they exist. This is still fundamentally a game that came out of early access, and it shows in places. There was already a hotfix. Version 1.0.1, released just 5 days after 1.0 launched, addressing a handful of real issues, such as potential save data loss under certain conditions, a burning status effect that would incorrectly linger after touching a campfire, a PlayStation-specific error on the title screen, and an Xbox bug causing roughly a 30-second freeze after fast travel. All of those seem to be patched now, but it's worth knowing 1.0 wasn't flawless out of the gate, which frankly tracks for a game of this scope. There's also currently no dated roadmap for what's to come next. Pocket Pair hasn't announced 1.0.2 or any content plans beyond the bug fix patch. So if you're expecting a clear post-launch content calendar, the way some live service games provide, that's not here yet. So there's still more to come. So was it worth the wait? Honestly, yes, I think so. On launch day alone, Palworld hit over 470,000 concurrent players on Steam, and that climbed to over 850,000 2 days later, making it one of the biggest Steam launches of 2026, just behind Baldur's Gate 3 in the platform's history. And with over 40 million total players and what's reported as 92% positive reviews across recent user feedback, the audience clearly agrees the full release delivers. But what impresses me the most about this is that it doesn't feel like Pocket Pair was coasting on the hype. The World Tree and Sunreach genuinely expand what there is to do at the endgame. The new PALs and Awakening mutation systems address the progression staleness I had with the game before. And the multiplayer improvements make playing with friends meaningfully impactful and better. It's not a perfect launch. There were real bugs that needed a same week hotfix, and the promised server clustering isn't actually usable yet. But as a complete package, this finally feels like the game Palworld was always trying to be, rather than a fascinating tech demo riding a viral moment. But if you played in early access and bounced off, this is the point to come back. If you've never touched it, there's generally never been a better time to jump in. Full price stayed the same at $29.99, no price hike for the full release, and existing owners got 1.0 for free. But that's my review. Let me know in the comments if you're diving back in for the World Tree, and if you want a deeper breakdown of any specific new PAL or the Sunreach zone. And tell me below and I'll cover it, whatever it is. But thanks for watching. I'll be seeing you in the next one. Take care.